Hi, Julie Russo here, creator of Structures of Equality, where we're making sense of math stories. If you're new to structures, they're a reading comprehension tool that helps students better understand number stories. Before we get started, make sure you remember to subscribe to my channel below. I post weekly videos with actionable tips. Don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified when they're available. The Math Main Idea Work Mat Level 3 can be found on my website underneath the Resources tab. There are 3 levels to this work mat. 1 provides the most scaffolding, 3 provides the least scaffolding for students. So there's 2 versions of this on my work mat. There's one that has an example, and there's one that's fillable. We're going to talk through the example first. I encourage you to really look at this one before you jump into the fillable one. So the story I chose for this example comes from North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. It's called an unpacking document. That's what my state uses to help teachers understand the curriculum. This is 4th grade. So it says Sally is 5 years old. Her mom is 8 times older. How many years older is Sally's mom compared to Sally? So this story describes, the math main idea of this story is a comparison relationship, but it's a special comparison. It's a multiplicative comparison relationship. And we're going to get to that as we move on down through this document. So the first thing I always do with students, regardless of where they are in their understanding of structures of equality, is talk about those reading questions that we ask. Does the story have a character? Is there an action or a verb? Does the story have a setting? What's the unit or thing we are counting or comparing? So we'd go through and answer those questions, or I'd give this to a student and they'd answer it independently. Then this next section says, what does the math main idea of the story describe? Check the box next to your answer. So the first choice is composing parts or groups, or decomposing a total into parts and groups. This story doesn't describe that. The next one says comparing 2 distinct sets, groups, or amounts. And then the next one says composing equal parts, groups, sets, or amounts to form a total, or decomposing a total into equal groups, parts, sets, or amounts. So people could argue those last 2. The one that is most connected to the story is a comparison relationship. In another video, we talk about how some people could see this as a repeated equal groups kind of structure of equality. But for today's purposes, we're going to talk about this as a compare story, a story that describes a comparison relationship. So the next box says, finish the sentence. The math main idea of the story describes. The students would fill that in, comparing Sally's age to her mom's age. And then they would draw or build the structure of equality. And at any age, any group, I encourage you to use manipulatives with your students. When you're introducing these comparative, multiplicative comparison problems, using snap cubes to represent what's happening in the story is a great way to introduce a story like this. So I actually drew the example as if they were snap cubes. So that first snap cube would be Sally's age, would represent Sally's age, and she is 5 years old, and that's labeled on there. And then we have the first snap cube below in green is the first snap cube in Sally's mom's age, which is also 5 years old. So up until that point, they're both 5 years old. But we know that Sally's mom is 8 times older. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks to represent Sally's mom's age, and that's labeled on there. So then in the box below, you'd have the students write an expression or equation, and then they have a checklist to see if they've drawn the structure of equality with all of the important elements. Does your structure of equality have a label? Have labels? Yes. Does your structure of equality have values? Yes. Does your structure of equality have a representation of equality? Yes. So I encourage you to look at this document first and then go to this document. And you can use this document and you can fill in any story you want here and have the students use this to work their way through drawing the structure of equality. So if you're following me on Facebook, or if you get my emails, I'd love to get your feedback on how this document is helpful or not helpful in your classroom. So good luck. If you'd like to explore this idea more, You'll find a link to this resource in the description below.